Hey guys, today I will show you how I choose my colors for dummies. So let's get into the introduction, shall we? So there are some main points that we have when it comes to coloring in your anime drawings. So I think one of the main points that is important is anime and cartoons derive from real life into its simple form. So basically, what it means is like a lot of the color theory and a lot of like shadows, lighting, midtones, and all that, a lot of it comes from real life. And so, yeah, that is like very important to know. That is why like some art teachers encourage people to like know real life drawing before getting to anime. I'm not saying that you can't completely take anime out of your eyes before, I don't know, just you could just anime derives from real life. That's an extremely important point to know, and I'll show you in a second on why. Two, the basics are very powerful. That's a quote that I like to use a lot from Istebrak, or she would most likely say the power of basics. So basics are very powerful if you use them correctly, and I will show you how later on in the video. So point number three, there is always a lighting source. So a lot of beginners make this mistake of not adding in a lighting source, and they would just add in the shadows. There will always be a lighting source, whether there's a background or not. So, and plus, it makes more sense if you just add a lighting source, in my opinion. And this is not like a point that you need to know, but it's like I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add extra tutorials from outsourcing in the description because obviously I had to learn this from somewhere, and I think I want to like use what I learned like throughout my many years of drawing into a video, and then I could give you some extra information from other artists just from using other tutorials, which will be used in the description. Okay, so yeah, that is like my introduction. And so I think the very first point I want to get to is color theory. So color theory is actually quite important. So here's the color wheel. We also have like a color wheel here in our paint tool side. So what I like to do is actually use the color wheel to help create my drawing. And I'm not talking about well, I guess it applies to shadows and lighting and all that, but we'll get to that later. So, so here and here, those are called complementary colors. And complementary colors are opposite from each other from the color wheel. And they could contrast each other. So, red and green are complementary, and then this purple and then this yellow is complementary, and then this blue and then and then this orange is also complementary. So basically anything outside the color wheel is complementary. Now we need to get to analogous, so I'm going to erase that. Analogous would be here, here, and here. Basically, these three colors are literally just right next to each other. So some analog examples. So this pink right here, and then this purple, and then this other purple. I do not know my names of the colors, okay? And then another example would be this red, this orange, and then this other orange. Another perfect example would be this blue, this other blue, and then this green. So these are quite analogous. And so we would apply that to our art pieces. So I'm going to go to my very recent art piece, which is Fairy Queens from YouTube, and we see a lot of analogous like right here. If we color pick right here, it you can notice in the color wheel, it's like very next to each other. So this blue is literally right next to this purple, and in between there as well. Now, if we like color pick, let's color pick this purple again real quick. If we color pick this purple and then we color pick this green, you can notice how it's like opposite from the color wheel. And so that's like complementary to each other. So that's how I apply complementary colors to this piece. It's like, it doesn't have to be like prominent. I mean, it can be prominent in your art piece, but it could be there a little bit. And then this is how I apply it to analogous. It's just because it's part of her design. It's just like, naturally it's going to be like that. But yeah, it helps like really pop. Like the character's like the main focus and everything. And it just creates balance. Like, you know, we have the complementary and then we have the analogous. Let's go to another example right here. So this is like my second most recent picture. And so primarily we have the character in pink with the pink roses. And so her design is mainly analogous as well. And so if we color pick, you can notice how like the color wheel, it's like going this direction. And then here in the background, this character and the roses contrast with the background if we color pick, because if we color pick this guy, you notice how it's like about opposite to the pink and reds. So this is an example of complementary colors. And so the analogous is used in the design, and then the complementary colors are used to contrast the character and the background. Of course, again, this is like more of a prominent one than like my other picture, but there's like a much more variety of how you could apply analogous and complementary colors to help make a certain focus pop more. And there's also cold and warm colors that you could use to create some sort of mood. So yeah, those are like things that I really like to use, complementary and analogous colors. And that's how I basically choose my basic colors, my layout. So yeah, I think the next thing I want to do is how I pick my colors when it comes to shading and lighting. So that is what I'm going to discuss next. Okay, so here we have like two horribly drawn spheres that I've done, but it doesn't really matter to me because this is for educational purposes. I'm not here to make it perfect. I just want to at least get the point across. So, as you can see here, I have these things pointed out. This is the highlights. This is the half shadow, which is in between the shadow and the main portion. And then here's the reflection, which is like reflected from like this color here. I guess you could say the counter. I don't know. And then here's the cast shadow here. It's the same thing around here. So this helps like create dimension. And that is used in both real life and anime. So here are some points I want to make. You need to keep the value in mind. So the reason why I say to keep the value in mind is because, well, you just want to make it pop. So I'm going to like go back to an old picture I had in 2013. Oh, geez, this is like a horrible picture. I think, yeah, this is 2013. So what I have here is you cannot see the skin very well. Like, obviously I've shaded it, but like you cannot see it pop. So if I color pick here, you can obviously tell that the colors weren't moved. So, and I did something I should not have done. I went across horizontally instead of diagonally. And that's not good because that does not change the value. And so, I mean, it could sort of, but like, if I like go to here, there's like very little value difference, especially on the hair. I mean, like if I color pick here, obviously I chose white as my base, and then I color pick here. You can't even tell that I shaded it. Like, it's obvious that I tried to like move it down, but it's obvious that I did not shade it. I mean, it's obvious that like I did not shade it good enough. So that is like sin number one. Okay, I'm just gonna like make this bigger on the right side and write sin number one. Little value variation. Alright. So that is something that needs to happen. Meanwhile, in this picture, I've improved and there's actually value variation. Here. Let me like put this background right here. And if I like change it to black and white, it's clear that there's like a lot of value going on. There's like the lighting and then there's like dark values and there's that. And so, yeah, you gotta keep your values in mind. So in order for you to do that, you need to like go diagonally like this, but like in a greater manner than you usually would if you're having trouble with value. Okay, so oh my goodness, which picture is it? Okay, there we go. Another tip I would like to provide is if you color pick this right here to here, you can notice that this color wheel actually moves. So it's actually a really good idea to move the color wheel. Like that's a mistake artists tend to make, or at least beginner ones. They do not move the color wheel. So move the color wheel because it helps make the colors pop more. And in real life, you do not stick to one hue. You actually have a lots of colors and all that. So move the color wheel. And so let's go back to my old drawing here. As you can see, if I color pick here, which is like right here, shoot, this is the same background. I'll just do it right here. And then I color pick right here. Okay, you could tell that I didn't really move the color wheel. Same thing right here. I did not move the color wheel. Like, do you see any difference? And if there is any difference, it's like very, very little. And so, yeah, sin number 2. Did not move color wheel. Alright, so let's go back to the spheres. Now, I don't think it's like 100% necessary if you're cell shading, but I think it's like super important to have. So, like, here's the reflection. This is like something I do not ever see from people. Like ever, 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 ever. But it actually helps make the colors pop. So for example here, I have a shadow casted under due to the hat. And you can see that I have some purple hues here. And that is because I have a reflection here due to the hat. And so that's like an example of like a reflection. It's from the hat. And then I have another reflection here, and that is due to the fact of the hair and skin. I mean, in real life it doesn't always happen, but it's like a really nice touch up for anime. And you can see there's like reflections here due to the jackets. There's just like a bunch of reflections that I like to personally add. Okay, so now we go back to the spheres. we for beginner artists, sometimes they would add highlights, but or lighting, but there are some that do not add lighting. And that is super important. Or at least have sort of lighting direction. So, I do not know what the lighting direction is. Maybe it could have been like from right here, but there is very little variation. I mean, I would assume it's like from right here because it's like they're shading right here and then they're shading right there. But when I was a beginner, I did not keep in mind of the lighting. So sin number 3, no lighting. And then right here, I would obviously have lighting here, the light source, which would come from here if we like ignore the part that there's like cherry blossoms or whatever from the tree. Let's just remove that real quick. The lighting would like come from here. And it's obvious too, because like I added like blue highlights that is coming from the sky. So yeah, that's pretty important. Let's go to this picture here. It's obvious that this lighting is coming from here, considering that the lighting is like right here, right here, right here, right here. You know, it's pretty obvious that the lighting is coming from here, this side. So, yeah, the lighting is extremely important. All right, let me see what I could think of. All right, now we can actually like get to the coloring part. So, when I color the skin, you kind of want to move the color wheel always right here to the left. So, I already have my colors picked out. So, you just move to the color wheels to the left, and then you choose your colors diagonally to the right. So, it's somewhere around here that I can do. And so I'm gonna like shade the skin real quick. And I'm probably gonna have the lighting source to the left like always, because that's like, for some reason, left is my favorite place for light source. So yeah, I'm gonna like color this real quick. Okay, so now that we kind of have the base of the colors like colored, well, not like for the first layer, which we can like, you know, name it as the mid shadows or, you know, the half shadow. And so now we can like move on to the second layer and choose our second color. Again, we move it to the left of the color wheel and then we move down. I mean, I didn't move it as much as before, but this is how you this is how you color this. So, yeah. All right. Now I'm going to color it. And I think I might just like move the color wheel a little bit more. There we go. It's like a tiny bit right here. Okay. So yeah, this is like my second layer here. And now, due to the hair, if you want, you can add a little bit of reflection from the hair. So you can just do something like this. That's pretty cool. And you can just like lower the opacity. Alright, so I'm not gonna try and finish coloring the skin. I'm gonna like move on to the hair because I haven't picked cut my colors for my hair yet. So what I'm gonna do, since this is like more red themed, I'm gonna move my color wheel towards like more on the red end instead of like the green end. I think that would make the most sense to me. So I would move it from here, and then I would move it diagonally. And by the way, you can move it like however you feel like you need to move it. Like, it doesn't always have to be like diagonal right. Like, you can move it diagonal left if you need to like do that so it doesn't like become too saturated. All right, so that's going to be my second color for my hair. And then I'm going to move it again, and I'm going to move it to the left this time. And honestly, if you think this is too dark, then you can always lighten it if you really want to. But yeah. So same thing with pink. If you notice the color wheel changes, it always changes, like no matter what. So I'm going to give you a layer breakdown from this image here. So let's do, which layer do I want to do? I want to do the purples. So there's like a lot of layers here. So I would like shade it with the after I put in my base colors, I would shade it like right here. And these are like, let me see if I still have the colors. No, I do not. That's the reference photo. Okay, there we go. These are the, so right here, these are my colors. So the primary is like right here. And then you see how like the color wheel moves. And then this is my secondary shade. And this is my third shade. And so this is like my second layer. And it was this color. And then my third layer, which was this color. And then my fourth layer, I actually did not use any of the purples. I color picked like from this area from the jacket, and then I shaded it. Luminosity and shade. I used like a lighter purple, and I used like a yellowish kind of thing because like yellow's like pretty good. You can honestly, yellow is like the perfect color for lighting, but you don't always have to use yellow. So I used yellow for this. And then I used some blues because I knew that I would use a sky. And so the sky actually helps reflect onto as a highlight. So yeah, these are like my layers breakdowns. So basically, to summarize it, for the color wheel, you can move this way, or you can go move the other way. And you can move this right here. And so what I usually tend to do is like if I'm moving this way, then I would move the other way for the lighting. Or if I'm moving this way for the shading, then I would move the other way for the lighting. That's what I usually tend to do, but use your mind on what you want to do with your color schemes. So yeah, this just basically summarizes everything. And then the final thing I want to say is do not shade in gray. I don't care what you think, do not shade in gray. So that happens in real life too. Freaking colors are never gray. There's always colors for it. And when you color pick it, it's dandelions are generally white, right? If you color pick it, it's like near the gray scale, but it's not on the gray scale. So there's still some color on there. And so the colors are reflected based on where you are and the surroundings of it. In this case, I am like surrounded by, anything that is yellow or greenish. It's probably because of the filter too, but you get the point. And so, if you don't know what to shade with, what do you generally shade with? So I think you should shade with a slight like grayish blue because the sky is blue. That is if you're outside. Now, if you're indoors, it really depends on what you're surrounded with. So, if you're surrounded with a pink room, you could shade with a pink or whatever. Or it really depends on like the color scheme too. Like you don't have to like you have to maybe use your artistic like abilities to determine like what kind of color you want to shade with instead of gray. But just please do not shade with gray. So, in this case, let's go to here. I shaded with a pinkish brownish in this case for the cape since the cape is white. I could have shaded with blue if I really wanted to. But because, I wanted to match with the character, I did not shade with blue. I shaded with pink. And so, if you color pick, you can see it's more on the pinkish and brownish side. Now, if you go to Fairy Queens here, I did the same thing. There's some white. I did not shade with blue. I shaded with like purples and pinks just to help match with her design. Now, in my opinion, if you really don't know what to shade with, the best answer, just go with blue. That's just my opinion. But just use your time to like know what colors to shade with. I am going to provide a link in the description below that describes like why shading gray is a no-no. They explain better than I can. So, yeah. Now let's go back to the introductions. Anime derives from real life into its simple there we go. Anime derives from real life into its simple form. The basics are powerful. There is always a lighting source, and extra tutorials will be in the description. So, yeah. Oh, I forgot something else. I made a sin number 4. I shaded with gray. Look, it's like right here. It's on the grayscale. And I shaded with gray. So, sin number 4. Oh. Number 4. Shading with gray. So if we go back here, anime derives from real life into its simple form. Basics are powerful. There is always a lighting source, and extra tutorials will be in the description. I hope you find this tutorial helpful, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!